This is Crazy Quilty March, day 19. I'm Pat Sloan, and there's two things we're going to talk about today. One is rebooting, which is what our challenge for the day is on our calendar, which you can download below if you haven't gotten it. And we're going to do this again in April, so you can download there'll be an April one coming. Not yet, but later. So you want to print off the calendar. You make notes on it. But anyways, we're going to reboot. And then number two is I want to talk about keeping sane. So rebooting is taking a look at a project that you more take a look at a project you're currently working on that you may have gotten behind. Maybe you're doing Bloomtopia, or you're doing the Out West or the Orifil. You might be doing my childhood games. Any of those are samplers, and so you might have gotten behind on one of those blocks. And for those of you that are up to date on everything you are doing, we bow, we bow. But there's a lot of us that's not how life works. Things get in the way. So what I want you to do is look at what you're working on and grab something you need to reboot. You need to get it going again. It's current, but you haven't worked on it for a long time. And if you really are current on everything, then just work on whatever your current project is. Like you might have one that's not a sampler, so or something you can work ahead on. So that's your thing. Today is rebooting day. Now, if I were going to reboot, I would work on Norm. Norm and Nanette. So Norm's like my mascot now. I don't even know when I finally make this whole quilt whether I'm going to have one Norm that just stays up there. He may stay there and be my mascot. Although I think I need a red one. I think I need to make Norm in the red and leave him in the room here. So this is a great pattern. It's so fun. And when I have two containers, I have this tray that's got the parts sort of in progress, which I've cut out. Like here are all the, here I'll show you. I do not want to dump it on the floor. So here are all the Norm faces. They look like Santa, right? So those are all the faces. And then I also have, a bunch of other parts for Nanette. So here's parts for Nanette and more parts for Nanette. Like that's the mouth up there. More to cut, more mouth parts. So that is my need to reboot project. So if I were going to uh, reboot, but I can't do that today. But you can. Your challenge. You can. So you have to reboot today. But the other thing I want to do is talk about keeping sane. How are we keeping sane? Well, a lot of us are now in at home a lot. We're at home, period. We're not on going out and doing the things that we normally do. Our lives are changed for several weeks. Our schedules are changed for several weeks. There are a few of us, maybe like me, that my schedule has changed very little. When I'm home, I'm usually home working, and so I have a few things I'm not doing, but it's not a huge impact to my personal schedule. But for a lot of people, it is, such as you may not be able to work in your office, so you're having to work at home. And when you're working at home, your other family members are also working at home, or your roommates are working at home, or you might have kids at home that weren't normally home. Even if you're retired, your events that you normally do, maybe your charity groups or your social groups, are all shut down right now. And if they're not, they probably should be, because uh, that's the only way we're going to, as they say, flatten the curve. We do not want, a massive amount of sick people all at once. So we're all doing our part. But while this is happening, it may, now quilters, now, right. Put your hand up if you think this, you have probably had dreamed about always being at home. Oh, wait, before we talk about that, before you dream that, I want to thank everybody who does have to go out as first responders on the front line, our grocery store workers, our gas station attendants, the people who are running the stores and giving you deliveries, all the delivery people, the doctors, the nurses, the emergency, everybody. Like, mwah, we can't do this without you. You are so important, and I know that you're not getting any rest. You're not, and we're thinking about you. I'm thinking about you. One of the ladies in our community online is a police officer in the Trinidad and Tobago. So there are people all over the world who are the helpers for their communities. But then there's the others of us who we are still doing our jobs, but our lives are changed a lot. So to keep sane, a lot of I'm hearing is people feel a bit isolated now because you don't have that connection to your family. You don't have as easily. You don't have the connection to your social network, your friends. You can't go to lunch, go to church, or just your community groups, or ones that are not critical community groups. You can't go and function at those. So what can we do? I put a post out on my Facebook group um, to get ideas, and I'll link over to that because there's fabulous ideas. But I think there's a couple things I just want to highlight, a couple things, because they're important and easy to do, and you just might not have thought about them. One is make yourself sort of a plan. Like, what do you want to accomplish? Because it's a dream. Quilters think, oh, it's a dream. I could stay home and quilt for a whole month and not go anywhere. All my commitments are canceled. Um, Now, if you work, that's not really true because you're working at home, but all your commitments are canceled. Well, if you don't focus on what you're doing, all of a sudden your time just piddles away and you didn't accomplish anything. So write down a list, get a calendar, get a planner, write down the things you want to accomplish over the next few weeks. And how are you going to do that? Which ones you're going to work on each week? Another thing is the missing of your friends in your community. If you do not have like a Facebook group for your local friends, build one. My friends have one. My girlfriend Monica sent me a video the other day. She was doing something on a wall in a design room, and she said, look what I'm doing, and she sent me a video. You can do that with your friends. If your friends build a group, if you have a charity group that you work with and you're missing them, build a keep connected by a Facebook group. It's a super powerful way. I mean, if you're in mine now, you know that. And I know not everybody is on Facebook, but if you're looking for a community, there aren't a lot of other ways to do that. But you can pick up the phone, pick up the phone and call. Talk on the phone again, like we did in the old days. Pick up the phone and talk to people. That will keep you connected to your friends. Find out what they're doing. If years ago I had an email uh, group, I guess you'd call it, because so what we did is we just emailed each other, like all during the day. Put everybody's name in there, and so if you have a small sewing group and they're not on Facebook, get yourself an email communication going. You can send pictures of what you're working on. You can send a video of what you're working on. Almost all of you probably have phones that can do a little video, even if it's not a super great video. At least it's something. You can talk over it and you can say what you're doing. So there's also texting. So if you can text something through the phone, you can do that too. My mom was just texting me a menu from where she lives. We don't live near each other. So that is another way to be sure that you keep in that communication that you have. And if you are in a place that it's not possible, the email is a good way because you can at least do the conversation that way. The other thing would be maybe don't check the news all the time. I can be at fault for that sometimes. Sometimes I'm on there like, what's going on? What closed now? I mean, it is changing massively every day, every single day. It's crazy. But I don't need to look at it I don't need to look at it 10 times a day. I can look at it once or twice a day and still know all the stuff. It's if a super huge major thing happens, you'll find out about it. But the other stuff, which once or twice a day is plenty to go check on it. So there's a lot of other ideas about how to plan, how to think about things. One lady wrote in there so far that she was sort of balancing what she was doing. So she would do a little bit of stuff in her kitchen. And then she decided, well, she hadn't cleaned the fridge for a long time. So she took the opportunity to clean the fridge. And then she finished reading a book. And then she went back to her sewing. So taking a balance of what you have across different things. If you have always, like to make certain dishes and maybe you haven't had, got home from work and really haven't had time because, maybe you'll feel now being at home, you have a little breather where you can make those dishes that take a little bit more time. So look around at some items like that, but make a list. I cannot say how important I think that is, because if you write down some goals, okay, over the next 4 weeks, you know, over the next 6 weeks. I mean, these, and not that you might have to be in all the time, but these are the things I want to accomplish. And then even write down, well, my group doesn't have an email list, so I'm going to start an email list, or I'm going to ask them to start a Facebook group. All of that is easy and keeps you totally connected with everybody. So, on this beautiful Thursday day, I will let you go to one, find something to reboot, and two, to look at how you can keep yourself motivated and happy and healthy over the next few weeks while we are living through history that we would never have guessed to have been involved with. Well, here we all are, all of us. So I love you. It's hard, but we can do it. We do hard things, and we have each other, and we have our communities, and so use them. Don't sit by yourself. Use your ability to talk on the phone, to do an email, to join a group. All right? So I love you. I will talk to you online.